So we're near the halfway stage of the 2021 Formula One season, and we're getting to that stage where we're talking about the driver market, who's going to be driving where next season. Coming out of Austria, we obviously had the news that Lewis Hamilton will be with Mercedes until the end of 2023. And obviously prior to Austria, we had Esteban Ocon signing a contract extension with Alpine until the end of 2024. Now, with the new regulations coming in for the 2022 season, you might think, that shake up, it might also shake up the grid. But this doesn't look like to be the case, and there seems to be only a few seats left available for the pinnacle of motorsport. One driver who has not been confirmed for a drive on the grid next year is Pierre Gasly. And with his contract up at the end of the season with Red Bull, is Pierre Gasly stuck in limbo? With Gasly being a Red Bull backed driver, the opportunity is there for him to go from the junior team AlphaTauri into the Red Bull senior team. And Gasly has excelled at AlphaTauri. Gasly was a consistent point scorer in the AlphaTauri in 2020 and this year so far in 2021. And not only is he a consistent point scorer, but he also has the edge in qualifying over his teammates. In 2020 it was Daniel Kvyat, and this year it's been his rookie teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Last year Kvyat only qualified Gasly 4 times, whilst this year Tsunoda is yet to do that. In addition to this, Pierre Gasly has actually scored 3 podiums for AlphaTauri / Toro Rosso. Brazil 2019, Baku 2021, and most memorably his win at Monza. So that sounds all well and good. He's shown the form that Red Bull would want him to show to consider him for that main Red Bull seat alongside Max Verstappen. So why is he not in that car yet? Well, he did actually race for them in 2019, and yikes. Now, whilst Perez is only contracted to Red Bull to the end of the year, it looks likely he'll get another year with the team. He's kind of grown into the team's expectations and got more and more comfortable with the car. And he did say, judge him after his 6th race, and well, he won his 6th race at Baku for Red Bull. In addition to this, Perez has been there or thereabouts for Red Bull for strategy purposes, and because of that he was able to be opportunistic and pick up the win at Baku after Verstappen had that tyre failure and Hamilton left the magic button on and locked up after the race restart after Verstappen's crashed. So you have to be there or thereabouts to pick up those opportunities when they arise. Something that Perez has, whilst his predecessors Albon and Gasly weren't. Furthermore, promoting Gasly back into that Red Bull seat over Perez would ultimately mean that Helmut Marko and Christian Horner were wrong about Gasly, and whether they're the type to admit to that and admit to defeat, I'm not so sure. You also have to take into consideration that when Alex Albon was under pressure at Red Bull, there was talk about Pierre Gasly potentially taking his seat mid-season, but ultimately they didn't do that. They didn't give Gasly that opportunity, even though Gasly was thriving at AlphaTauri. Whilst Gasly was winning in the AlphaTauri at Monza last year, Albon had finished 15th in that same race. Ultimately, when Albon lost his drive at the end of the season, they had the option to promote Gasly then for 2021, but ultimately they went with Perez. So that kind of shows where they are with Gasly, I believe. They've already given him the chance, and in their eyes, he blew it. And whilst Gasly has gone on record to say that he does want to get that Red Bull seat back. Helmut Marko has said that he does see Gasly's future at AlphaTauri. He sees him as the perfect team leader there in an environment that he's comfortable in. And that's not what Gasly wants ultimately. He wants to be experiencing Monza 2020 on a regular basis. He wants to be up there fighting for championships. So if he's staying within the Red Bull family, he's going to be confined to AlphaTauri for next year at least. So is there anywhere else on the grid that Pierre Gasly could go to? Gasly was linked with that Alpine seat to partner Ocon to create an all-French driver lineup for an all-French team, but they went with Alonso instead, a two-time world champion. And with Alonso there until the end of 2022, and Ocon recently signing a contract to be there till the end of 2024. In addition to this, Alonso thinking he'll be racing with Alpine until the end of 2024. That looks to be off the cards for the foreseeable future. With McLaren and Ferrari, they look like they're settled on their drivers for next year. So are Aston Martin. The options that Gasly has are just getting slimmer and slimmer. Haas needs sponsorship money, and it looks like Schumacher and Mazepin will be there next season. Whether Mazepin deserves it is another story, but money can do a lot of things. So that kind of leaves us down to three teams: Mercedes, Williams and Alfa Romeo. In fact, why have I even said Mercedes? Let's be realistic here. It's most likely going to be George Russell next season in that Mercedes alongside Hamilton. And if it's not George Russell, it will be Valtteri Bottas. Shouldn't really get my hopes up. The dream of Gasly in the Mercedes, it's just not realistic. So then we're left with two teams, Williams and Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo, it doesn't really seem plausible, for that Ferrari influenced seat. It's a bit unlikely Gasly will move there, and if Russell does take Bottas's seat at Mercedes, there was a recent report saying that Bottas would end up replacing Raikkonen at Alfa Romeo, with the chance that this might be Kimi's last season in F1. And with the aforementioned seat that Ferrari have influence over Alfa, Gasly's not a Ferrari driver. That's more than likely going to go to Giovinazzi, Ilott or Robert Schwartzman. So that kind of leaves Williams. Whilst Williams may be towards the back of the field in recent years, they are a team rich with history. If Gasly did join Williams, he'd be signing up for a long-term project. There'll be some short-term pain, I'd assume, but ultimately he would have to commit to this project. And whilst he's only 25 years of age, it is, at the end of the day, a project. There's no guarantee that Williams will end up returning to the front of the field. And would Gasly be content with fighting towards the rear of the field when his performances over the past 12 months deserve so much more than that? Opportunity for race wins, podiums and maybe world championships. As much as I think Gasly should be considered for that Mercedes seat, and if we're being a bit selfish here, as much as I like Russell, I would kind of want to see Gasly in that Mercedes seat. I mean, just think about it. Him being demoted, dumped by Red Bull Racing, and to be ultimately picked up by their biggest rivals and competitors, and then to be challenging Verstappen and Hamilton for race wins, podiums, championships. That's surely got to sound appealing to us as F1 fans and, Gasly himself. But ultimately, obviously, with Russell's talent, his performances in that Williams, and that Sakir Grand Prix that he should have won, plus his Mercedes connections, it's more than likely they'll go for Russell. And whilst sometimes the grass isn't always greener, the reality is Pierre Gasly should have more doors in F1 available to him. And whilst some would say Pierre Gasly has already had his opportunity at top seat with Red Bull and he's the one who blew it for whatever reason, he has shown great strength and resilience where others would crumble, and his performances on track show that he deserves another opportunity to be fighting for race wins at the top end of the F1 grid. It also shows the difficulties at securing a drive in Formula 1. Whilst there are some drivers that currently aren't on the grid that you could argue deserve to be on there, and whilst there are some drivers that don't deserve to be on the grid and are on the grid because money talks, but a driver of Pierre Gasly's quality should not be stuck in the confines of the F1 midfield, and that is why I believe Pierre Gasly is stuck in limbo, as his F1 future depends on other teams' decisions with their drivers. But for the time being, we just have to enjoy his performances in that AlphaTauri and hope that one day in the future he gets a top drive in Formula 1 and can fight at the front of the grid. Right, that was my opinion on why I believe Pierre Gasly is stuck in limbo on the Formula 1 grid. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and enjoy the rest of this qualifying lap and the rest of your day. Peace.